Want to get music and sound effect that actually sounds good? Go to artlist.io and get amazing music and sound effects to create better videos. Join the next
Boom. Okay. What are we doing? Where are we at? All right. Let's turn this down. I have a riveting, absolutely riveting, stream playing for us today. And today's stream is sponsored by Ice and Funyuns. Oh. And pizza, which I have in the oven. So we're going to set an alarm. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do today, and I'm going to turn this down a little bit. Boom. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you guys how I study. I'm going to show you guys how I actually learn. Now, the way this actually works is there's 4 learning modalities. I'm not going to go super far in depth with this. There's 4 learning modalities. Boom, right here. Visual, audio, auditorial, kinesthetic, and tactile. Basically, like feeling by touch, by doing, sports and stuff like that. Reading, writing. There's a whole different there's a whole bunch of them. They all basically mean exactly the same thing. Okay. Basically, do you learn through reading? Do you learn through writing? Do you learn through actually physically doing? Do you learn through just hearing instructions and being able to do it? Okay. Then there's this thing that's right here. It's called Bloom's taxonomy. And this is like the hierarchy of how you learn and how you can tell if you learned. Remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Okay. So I'm going to show you exactly what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And what we're going to learn today is CompTIA, the CompTIA A+. It's one of the first certifications for like IT stuff. And I stumbled into this because, well, I just like computers. And a lot of the stuff was super cheap. So I just went ahead and did it. I have this little thingy that's right here. This is an AI tool that reads things to me. And I'm going to show you why that's important. Let me log in off screen. Okay. I don't think my webcam is going to be in the way. Huh, that's not good. Huh. Yeah, that's not good. Why is it not loading? Will the labs load? Labs load. Let's see what else is going on. So A+ basically means that you know like basic computer troubleshooting and stuff like that. I'm not gonna lie, this is gonna be a boring one. I'm literally doing this because like I need to do this because I've set like certain goals and tasks for myself for this year, and I'm trying really, really hard to like be on me to like do them, but also really want to stream. So now I'm combining the two, and yeah, excellent, right? So we have operating systems, securities, software, troubleshooting, operational procedures, and then we have a practice test. And as you can tell, I've already done quite a few of this stuff. So the one we're going to do, we're going to find one that is like, I think, let's do this one. Taking forever to load. Okay, perfect. It's not going to make a difference. So this is what I do to make sure that I learn and I completely understand everything that's going on. One,
when reviewing a change request, where would a manager find the benefits a change will accrue?
So I have it read it to me, but I read it at the same exact time that it's reading it to me. So therefore, I'm listening to it and I'm also reading it all at the same exact time. Not to mention, I have it at 1.3x speed, and sometimes I bump it up to like 1.7x speed, and that actually helps me to be able to read faster. So let's do this again.
When reviewing a change request, where would a manager find the benefits a change will accrue?
So where the manager find the benefits a change will occur. So here are the answer choices: purpose, service assets, performance baseline, scope, and I think it's scope. Now, the reason I like the CompTIA stuff is that I can either hit I'm unsure, and I can actually hit unsure on 2 of them. So, or I can say I'm absolutely sure with whatever this is. So I'm going to say that it's either going to be performance baseline or it's going to be scope. And I'm pretty sure it's scope, but here's the other thing too. I'm not sure what the actual definitions are, like the actual corporate definitions of what these things are. So I'm going to hit unsure on both of them, or I would just leave it as unsure, because in a second you'll see after I've gone through them, they'll come back and they'll help me review and they'll define all the stuff for me. So we'll just go ahead. So I was I was wrong. It's going to be one of these two. So, and it wants me to immediately learn. So that's, because I've already started this one. Okay. So here's one that I got wrong. Let's read it.
During the planning of a software upgrade or other major change, the planner must identify what computers or software will be part of the upgrade. This includes what services may be unavailable and how this will impact users and customers. Which part of change planning does this fall under?
Okay. Affected systems and impacts. So then what I do is I go through and I listen to and I read what every single answer choice actually is and what the definition is. And then I do another thing too, and I'll show you in a second.
When planning a major change, it is important to identify all affected systems and services and their impact on users and customers. Scheduling a change during the normal maintenance window or off-peak hours of operation helps ensure minimal user and customer time loss, as well as the technical implementation. The change plan must account for end-user acceptance. It can be difficult for people to adapt to new processes and easy for them to magnify minor problems. Risk mitigation is an important part of the risk management process. It involves creating steps to lower initial risk to an acceptable level.
Okay, so I've read those things, and then this is what I actually do too. So I have Chatbot GPT, and it's in my Mega Thread 2, which is for CompTIA. I got a whole bunch of like things that are going on over here. There we go. And what I will do is I would like So, explain to me the difference between this and the one that I got wrong. Whoops. Oh, I just screwed it all up because I forgot to hit. And it should read it to me as well. That is not. Oh, that was dumb. Risk management. And it should just read it to me. Yeah, it's running slow, probably because I'm streaming. Normally, if the internet doesn't have a load on it, it just as it's typing, it'll read it to me, and as it's typing, I read it as well.
Certainly. Affected system/impact refers to the extent or severity of the consequences resulting from an issue, incident, or vulnerability. It outlines which systems or components are directly impacted and the magnitude of the impact on them. On the other hand, risk mitigation involves strategies or measures implemented to reduce or eliminate the likelihood or severity of risks. It focuses on proactively addressing vulnerabilities, threats, or potential impacts to minimize their negative effects. In summary, affected system/impact assesses the aftermath of an event, while risk mitigation focuses on preemptive actions to prevent or lessen the impact of potential risks.
Okay, so now that I've heard it, the reason I do it through Chatbot GPT is because I'm using it as a teacher. I'm typing it in, I'm asking what the differences are in these things, and it's spitting me out this stuff. And it more or less said exactly the same thing that's over here, but it said it in a different way. So now I haven't just read the information and heard the information once. I have now read and heard the information twice, 2 different ways. And if I wanted to review it again, I would just, because the top one's always the right answer.
When planning a major change, it is important to identify all affected systems and services and their impact on users and customers.
Okay, by this time I've now read all of the definition of all the different things that are going on, and more times than not I've already forgotten what the question was, but I'm armed with knowledge. I actually know what's going on, and I'm actually in the middle of remembering and understanding. That's exactly where I'm at right now. So let's go back. Let's listen to what the actual question was.
During the planning of a software upgrade or other major change, the planner must identify what computers or software will be part of the upgrade. This includes what services may be unavailable and how this will impact users and customers. Which part of change planning does this fall under?
Boom. Affected systems and impact. So I read the question. I then define what all the answers are. And I learn when I read what that stuff is. Then I ask Chatbot GPT especially if there's 2 that I'm not sure. Sometimes I'll type in all 4, and then it'll spit out a thing. As you can tell, like I've done a lot of them. Okay, And then now I go back, I reread the question, and now it's very clear what the answer is. So then let's go to the next one. And then I just kind of rinse and repeat this entire process. If there's a concept that's really like I don't understand, like if it was like subnetting or the internet or like how transistors work on a computer chip or like something that's not even computer related, like I don't know how to put a formula into a spreadsheet or something like that, I would do exactly the process that I'm doing now, and then I would find a YouTube video that would have graphics. So that way now I'm activating my visual ability to learn as well. The next step beyond this is after I've done it with the hearing, after I've done it with the reading, after I've done it with the graphics and the visualization of things, then if possible, I will try out to go do it. Now, these things right now that I'm doing, there's no way I can't go out and review a change request when a manager finds benefits of change will occur. Like that's I'm not going to be able to do that in real life. But messing around with a router, building something outside, something like that, I'd be able to do. And I follow the process no matter what. It's important to always be consistent. So even though I already know what this question is, because this is the last question we just did before we hit the learning section, I go ahead and I just do the process.
When reviewing a change request, where would a manager find the benefits a change will accrue?
Okay.
The purpose of the change is to make the change and the benefits that the change will accrue. The scope is the number of devices, users, or customers affected by the change. The scope can also include costs, timescales, and potentially subtasks or stakeholders. The scope should also include the factors that determine the success or failure of the change. In the IT infrastructure library, ITIL, configuration management model, service assets are things, processes, or people that contribute to delivering an IT service. In the IT infrastructure library, ITIL, configuration management model, performance baselines are metrics for expected performance to provide a basis for comparison for ongoing monitoring of a change.
Okay, cool. So the answer is purpose. The purpose of the change is to make the change and the benefits that will change that the change will occur. All right, so let's do this. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. I would much rather. No, this isn't going to work because this is purpose. So in order for me to do this, I would have to change a little bit and be like, explain to me the answer of this question.
When reviewing a change request, a manager would typically find the benefits of change will accrue in the change request documentation or associated business case. This documentation outlines the rationale for the proposed change, including the expected positive outcomes or advantages that the change is intended to bring about. The benefits of a change may include improvements in efficiency, productivity, quality, cost savings, customer satisfaction, or other strategic objectives. They are typically identified and documented during the planning and evaluation stages of the change management process. In summary, the benefits of a change are usually detailed in the change request documentation or business case, providing justification for why the change is necessary and what positive impacts it is expected to deliver.
And that's why I thought it was scope. But it's actually purpose, because purpose.
The purpose of the change is to make the change and the benefits that the change will accrue.
Okay. Question again.
When reviewing a change request, where would a manager find the benefits a change will accrue?
And purpose. One more time.
The purpose of the change is to make the change and the benefits that the change will accrue.
Okay. So I've now heard it a bajillion times. I'm ready to go. Rinse and repeat.
What process involves testing a change in a computing environment designed to replicate the production environment, but isolated from it?
Sandbox. Now, when I did this earlier, I already know what a sandbox is, but I don't know. Pizza. I gotta go check it in a second. But I don't know what a user acceptance test is. I know what risk management is, but but in this context, I'm not very sure like what this stuff is. So that's why I marked it as a unsure, not because I was unsure about the question, but I was unsure of what these other answer choices were, and I knew that this program was going to tell me what the answer choices were.
Sandbox testing is the process of testing a change in a computing environment designed to replicate the production environment, but isolated from it. The change plan must account for end-user acceptance and technical implementation. It can be difficult for people to adapt to new processes and easy for them to magnify minor problems. During a major change process, end users may perform testing of the software or hardware to verify it functions properly and recommend changes, if necessary. This process is called user acceptance testing, UAT. The user may conduct this in a production environment. Risk mitigation is an important part of the risk management process. It involves creating steps to lower initial risk to an acceptable level.
Okay, I'll be right back. The pizza's done, and put a little stop right here. Be right back. Yeah, it needs like 5 more minutes. So we'll knock this down so that way it's not blaring. Okay, where were we? Trying to figure out what this was. There we go.
User acceptance testing, UAT, is the final phase of software testing before the software is released to the end users. It involves testing the software from the perspective of the end users to ensure that it meets their requirements and functions as expected in real-world scenarios. During wAtCh, actual end users or representatives from the user community execute predefined test cases or scenarios to validate the software's functionality, usability, performance, and compatibility with their workflow. The goal is to confirm that the software meets the specified business requirements and is ready for deployment. wAtCh typically occurs after system testing and may include both formal testing procedures and informal usability assessments. Any issues or discrepancies identified during wAtCh are documented, addressed, and retested before the software is approved for production release. In summary, user acceptance testing, UAT, is a critical step in the software development lifecycle, ensuring that the software meets the needs and expectations of its intended users before it is deployed into production.
So now the question is what is exactly the difference between that and sandbox testing? And this is why using Chat.gpt is so nice, because like it's smart.
User acceptance testing, UAT, and sandbox testing are both types of software testing, but they serve different purposes and occur at different stages in the software development lifecycle. User acceptance testing, UAT, purpose: what is conducted to ensure that the software meets the requirements and expectations of the end users or stakeholders. Participants: what is typically performed by actual end users or representatives from the user community. Environment: what is conducted in a production-like environment that closely resembles the real-world usage scenario. Focus: the focus of wAtCh is on validating the functionality, usability, and overall satisfaction of the end users with the software. Timing: what is performed towards the end of the software development lifecycle, just before the software is released for production use.
Oh, it stopped.
Sandbox testing. Purpose: sandbox testing is used to test the software in a controlled and isolated environment without affecting the production system. Participants: sandbox testing is typically performed by developers, testers, or quality assurance professionals. Environment: sandbox testing is conducted in a separate and isolated environment, often called a sandbox, which mirrors the production environment but is not connected to it. Focus: the focus of sandbox testing is on testing new features, configurations, or changes in a safe and controlled environment to identify and address any potential issues or bugs. Timing: sandbox testing can occur at various stages of the software development lifecycle, including during development, testing, and deployment phases. In summary, while both wAtCh and sandbox testing involve testing software in specific environments, wAtCh focuses on validating the software from the perspective of end users, while sandbox testing focuses on testing new features or changes in a controlled environment to ensure stability and reliability before deployment.
Okay. Is it double speaking because of the microphone? Double. Okay. Here, let me let's do this real quick.
Sandbox testing is the process of testing a change in a computing environment designed to replicate the production environment but isolated from it. The change plan must account for end user acceptance and technical implementation. It can be difficult for people to adapt to new processes and easy for them to magnify minor problems. During a major change process,
All right, stop. Okay, so this makes total sense. So that was a long process, probably way longer than I would like. But the wAtCh, that's basically like I'm out of the sandbox testing. I already know that it's working. It's now a matter of what does it look like on the end user end. Like what is it like for the actual person to have it and to actually use it. Someone who's not me, could they actually handle it? Sandbox testing is more of a testing the environment design to replicate the environment by isolating it. So it's more or less not. It could be building a program, but it could also be messing with like any type of anything that could break something else, and it's contained. I think I understand that correctly. Yeah, sandbox testing is a process of testing. A change in a computing environment designed to replicate the production environment, but isolated from it. Okay, yep, cool, understood. Let's move on. Cool, let's see how fast we can get the process to go.
It can be difficult for employees to adjust to a new or upgraded software, as well as the technical implementation. What must the change plan account for to mitigate this?
Okay, so what must the change plan? So there's a change plan that happens on the back end of every single company, even schools. Whenever they want to roll something out, there's a chance it could break everything. So that means that there has to be a plan for it to change, for them to roll out the change. Okay, Manu, I know you want in my lap real bad, but I'm about to go get the pizza. That 5 minutes went by fast. I'll be right back. Okay, and I'm back. So, weird thing, my pizza has a hole in it. And like, I don't know, it's weird. Desktop. Should knock it down to about here. I don't even think you can hear the music anymore. But that's okay. So anyway, the change plan means that it is exactly as it says. There's a change, or there's a plan for the change of whatever it is that they're trying to roll out. So what must the change plan account for to mitigate this? So it can be difficult for employees to adjust to a new or upgraded software. Everyone always bitches about it. as well as the technical implication. So what does the change plan account for? The end user experience, okay, and acceptance and all of that stuff. So let's go ahead. Let's read what every single one of these is or are. I know now what an UAT. Dang it, dyslexic. So a UAT. We learned that in the last few questions. The reason I'm going to listen to it all again is because now I'm listening to it in a completely different context. So I'm making sure that I can't get confused between this definition and that definition. I don't think that I can, but I just want to make sure. So
as well as the technical implementation, the change plan must account for end user acceptance. It can be difficult for people to adapt to new processes and easy for them to magnify minor problems. During a major change process, end users may perform testing of the software or hardware to verify it functions properly and recommend changes, if necessary. This process is called user acceptance testing, UAT. Users may conduct this in a production environment. Risk mitigation is an important part of the risk management process. It involves creating steps to lower initial risk to an acceptable level. Sandbox testing is the process of testing a change in a computing environment designed to replicate the production environment, but isolated from it.
So I don't think that this was the same definition from UAT that we read earlier. And if it was, then to me, this feels new and it makes a lot more sense. So it's not just about the end user performance testing. It's about making sure that it is accepted. Like the end user is going to be okay with it, right? Risk management, that totally makes sense. Sandbox, we just literally went over that. But then this is the actual answer. Let's see if we need to use ChatGPT.
As well as the technical implementation, the change plan must account for end user acceptance. It can be difficult for people to adapt to new processes and easy for them to magnify minor problems.
So if I had to put these in a hierarchy, sandbox testing is first. Then we go to UAT, which is user acceptance testing, and then end user acceptance. So it's not, we're no longer testing, it's there, it's done. All right, now let's reread the question.
It can be difficult for employees to adjust to a new or upgraded software, as well as the technical implementation. What must the change plan account for to mitigate this?
End user acceptance. Okay, here's Bloom's taxonomy. Right now we are still in remembering and understanding. We have not applied yet. Whoopsie. All right. Now, without there being any other interruptions because my pizza is already out of the oven, let's see how fast we can do the process.
Traffic light type indicators on a risk analysis worksheet where red is a high risk, orange is moderate risk, and green is minimal risk are examples of?
Okay, again, I know what all these are, but I don't know what these two things are.
The risk analysis level assigns some risk to all or part of the change request. The risk analysis worksheet can reflect this by a number or a traffic light, where red is high, yellow is moderate, and green is low or minimal risk. Risk mitigation is the process of reducing or limiting risk from an initial level to a lower level by taking steps to reduce the adverse effects of the implementation. Quantitative risk analysis calculates discrete values for the impact and likelihood of each factor affecting the change proposal. Qualitative risk analysis identifies and evaluates impact and likelihood factors through previous experience and informed opinion to replace or supplement metrics.
When you're trying to learn something new, it is incredibly important that you go overkill. You never want to halfway like a new concept, which is what ChatGPT 3.5 is doing with me right now. It's taunting me. I guess I'm asking my computer to do a lot. I bet it's Chrome. I bet it's using up all my RAM. There we go. Come on. Give me an over-detailed explanation. Two methods used in risk management to assess the analyzed risk. They differ, but they differ in approaches and outputs. Qualitative, which is quality risk analysis approach. Quality risk analysis focuses on assessing, there it is, sorry, risk based on their quality characteristics such as likelihood, impact, urgency, with assigning specific numerical values. Okay, that makes sense. Let's see if we can. Man, this is this sucks. I bet you I bet it's my RAM. I bet you anything. Chrome's a RAM eater.
Quantitative risk
There it is.
analysis and qualitative risk analysis are two methods used in risk management to assess and analyze risks, but they differ in their approaches and outputs. Qualitative risk analysis. Approach. Qualitative risk analysis focuses on assessing risks based on their qualitative characteristics, such as likelihood, impact, and urgency, without assigning specific numerical values. Inputs. It relies on expert judgment, historical data, and subjective assessments to categorize risks into qualitative levels, for example, low, medium, high, based on their perceived severity and importance. Outputs. The outputs of qualitative risk analysis include risk registers, risk matrices, and prioritized lists of risks, which provide insights into the relative significance of different risks and help in determining which risks require further attention or mitigation efforts.
Okay.
Quantitative risk analysis. Approach. Quantitative risk analysis involves using numerical methods and probabilistic techniques to quantify the potential impact of risks in terms of specific metrics, such as cost, schedule, or resource requirements. Inputs. It requires detailed data on risk factors, probabilities, and potential outcomes, often derived from historical records, simulation models, or expert estimations. Outputs. The outputs of quantitative risk analysis include probabilistic models, risk quantification reports, and sensitivity analyses, which provide more precise and quantitative estimates of risk exposure, allowing for informed decision-making and resource allocation. In summary, while qualitative risk analysis provides a qualitative assessment of risks based on subjective judgments and qualitative criteria, quantitative risk analysis uses numerical data and probabilistic methods to quantify risks in terms of measurable metrics, providing more precise and actionable insights for risk management.
Okay. That makes sense. Kind of. I hope it
Sure,
doesn't just say
let's
the same.
consider an example of a construction project to illustrate the differences between qualitative and quantitative risk analysis. Qualitative risk analysis. In qualitative risk analysis, the project team assesses risks based on their qualitative characteristics, such as their potential impact and likelihood of occurrence. For example, one identified risk might be delays due to adverse weather conditions. The project team subjectively evaluates the severity of this risk based on their experience and expertise, assigning it a qualitative rating of high due to its potential to cause significant delays and cost overruns. Another risk could be material shortages. Again, the team assesses the likelihood and impact of this risk qualitatively, rating it as medium due to the possibility of supply chain disruptions but not as severe as adverse weather conditions. Quantitative
Okay.
risk analysis. In quantitative risk analysis, the project team uses numerical methods to quantify the potential impact of risks in terms of specific metrics, such as cost and schedule. For instance, the team might estimate the potential cost impact of the
Okay.
delays due to adverse weather conditions risk by conducting a Monte Carlo simulation. Based on historical weather data and construction schedules, they calculate the probability distribution of project delays and associated cost increases. Similarly, they could use historical data and probabilistic models to quantify the potential financial impact of material shortages by estimating the probability of delays, additional procurement costs, and project disruptions. In summary, qualitative risk analysis provides a subjective assessment of risks based on qualitative criteria, while quantitative risk analysis involves using numerical data and probabilistic techniques to quantify the potential impact of risks more precisely.
Okay, so I understand it now. So in short, quantitative is anything that can be broken down in terms of a number. Just like the argument with school and grades don't matter, but somehow you have to break down the learning and quantify it into numbers in order to put it on a chart. It's not as so it's in order to give examples that someone has learned. It's not as simple as just saying they can do this. You have to quantify it some form, some fashion, some way, so that way there's a hard number. And that's how we get grades. The qualitative would be like if you were in class and you had a rubric and maybe it was like did poor, did good, did whatever, and it was the quality of what you did, except instead of like the quality of work that you're doing, it's the quality of the risk. So like you can't quantify adverse weather conditions. You can't put that really on a scale. You could, but it would be totally objective. Quantitative is not objective. Is cold hard. These are numbers. Qualitative is, I don't want to say it's objective because they're not measuring it in terms of it, but they are grouping these risk factors that cannot be quantitative, that cannot be broken down into numbers, into this. So that makes total sense. All right, now that I understand that, I've totally forgotten what the question completely was. So let's go back. Let's read the question.
Traffic light type indicators on a risk analysis worksheet where red is a high risk, orange is moderate risk, and green is minimal risk are examples of.
Okay, so very clearly it's not these two. I already knew that it was risk level, and it's not risk management because this is a gauge, and it could be confused with the quantitative risk analysis. But the word analysis means that it's not like that's not a level. That means I'm breaking something down, like I'm processing the information. I'm not gathering information per se. So that's why it's risk level. Okay, got it. Next one.
A project with significant impact should incorporate testing to allow end users to work with the updated system and suggest improvements before release. What is this process called?
So now I know that this process is called user acceptance training. I took a guess. That's why I wasn't sure. Things in it. Okay. All right. Now, I know what sandbox is. I know what wAtCh is. I know what risk management is, but I don't know what training and education is. I mean, I do, but I don't know what it is in this context. So, oh, look, and it gives us not a completely different one, but it's giving us a different example of what wAtCh is. So let's
During a
listen to
major
that.
change process, end users may perform testing of the software or hardware to verify it functions properly and recommend changes, if necessary. This process is called user acceptance testing.
So the way it explains it this time makes me think beta. It's in beta right now. It's not fully pushed out. It's making sure that the end user side looks good, which goes completely with all of the other definitions that we've read. Now, training and education. Let's see what context that this is in.
Training and education for end users is a critical part of the change management process. Software manuals and resources need to be available to the end user before implementing a change in the production environment.
Okay. I'm going to listen to that again.
Training and education for end users is a critical part of the change management process. Software manuals and resources need to be available to the end user before implementing a change in the production environment.
Okay, so this is the training. So we got a new program at school. It's called Canvas, and here's the manual. Here's the training. Here's everything that you need in order for you to be able to do X, Y, Z. Cool, got it. I don't need Chatbot GPT for this one.
During the planning of a software upgrade or other major change, the planner must ensure that they schedule the change to minimize the effect on users or other customers. What is an important change management step to ensure this?
So important change management step would have to be date and time of the change. That's one of the reasons why a lot of the changes and updates for websites and stuff happen at like midnight, 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., things like that, the maintenance and stuff like that that's supposed to go down. So I already know what risk management is, but let's see what their definition is of this.
Scheduling a change during the normal maintenance window or off-peak hours of operation helps ensure minimal user and customer time loss.
Okay, cool. Let's see what affect systems and impact. We already had that, but let's see what it has to say. Whoops.
When planning a major change, it is important to identify all affected systems and services and their impact on users and customers.
Okay. And then it's technical implication.
As well as the technical implementation, the change plan must account for end-user acceptance. It can be difficult for people to adapt to new processes and easy for them to magnify minor problems.
This one. That's what that is. Okay, and then risk management. So this makes sense. Let's go to the next one. So basically, like, it starts getting pretty fast. Now we're getting into things that I don't really know. Like, I know what a stakeholder is. I know what affected users are. Change advisory board, a CAB. I don't really know what that is.
When a change request is submitted, it must receive approval before action. Who is the approval authority for minor changes?
So this makes sense. The supervisor or the department manager. Okay, that's just like common sense. But let's make sure that we understand the context.
If the change is normal or minor, the supervisor or department manager may grant approval for the affected area. An example of a minor change would be a setting change in a browser or a minor software patch for an application that is not part of the normal work process for the user. The user is a good source of information when gathering data during the troubleshooting process, but is not normally a part of the change management process.
Okay. Cool. Let's keep going. All right, here we go. Now we're starting to kind of put it in there. We are now applying. Now, this is like a super soft level apply. Like, we are applying, but we're not applying it to the real world. We're just applying it to the test.
When reviewing a change request, where would a manager find the benefits a change will accrue?
Purpose.
During the change implementation process of the procurement life cycle, what needs to accompany the implementation plan to reverse the change if the need arises?
Ooh. We didn't go through that one. I'm pretty sure it's rollback plan.
During the change implementation process of the procurement life cycle, what needs to accompany the implementation plan to reverse the change if the need arises?
So it's not going to be qualitative risk analysis. We know what that is. We know what sandbox testing is. We know what quantitative risk analysis is. It's got to be rollback plan. And just so that way... Ah, dang it. That's what I get for trying to copy and paste things.
Quantitative risk analysis and qualitative risk analysis.
We don't need that. My fat fingers on my keyboard. I love my keyboard, I really do, but like my fingers are so fat.
A roll.
Yeah. Oh.
A rollback plan is a contingency strategy or set of procedures designed to revert changes made during a project or system implementation back to a previous state in case of unexpected issues, failures, or undesirable outcomes. It outlines the steps to undo the changes and restore the system or process to its original state or a known stable configuration.
Okay, I don't need the rest of it. I understand. Moving on.
The IT manager generates a change request when a fault requires repair, identifies a new business need or process, or has room for improvement in an existing standard operating procedure, SOP, or system. What part of the change request includes the number of devices, users, or customers affected by the change?
See, now I'm not entirely sure. Originally I thought purpose was scope, and now I'm thinking that this might be scope or performance baseline. So one of them is correct. We'll come back to it.
A project with significant impact should incorporate testing to allow end users to work with the updated system and suggest improvements before release.
We already know this. It's wAtCh.
When a change request is submitted, it must receive approval before action. Who is the approval authority for minor changes?
Oh, easy. Supervisor and department manager. It's not stakeholders. It's not affected users. And it's not the cab. Hey, Hans. What are you doing, boy? Hans? Hans. Go. Go. Hans. Come here. Okay, good boy. Good boy. But the cats don't like you in their space. Whoa, buddy. Go. Whew, that was close. He got pretty close to Manu. The cats tolerate the dogs, but yeah, it's best if they don't touch.
It can be difficult for employees to adjust to a new or upgraded software, as well as the technical implementation. What must the change plan account for to mitigate this?
Ooh. Ooh. I'm going to say end user acceptance. Because this is the test. Well, I don't know. This is the test. So what must the change plan account for to mitigate this? So this is all part of the plan, the change plan. It can be difficult for employees to adjust to a new upgraded system, as well as the technical implications. I'm going to go with the wAtCh. Oh, it was end user acceptance. Okay, now I know this one is based off the picture, but I'm
Traffic light type indicators on a risk analysis worksheet where red is a high risk, orange is moderate risk, and green is minimal risk are examples of? During the planning of a software upgrade or other major change, the planner must identify what computers or software will be part of the upgrade. This includes what services may be unavailable and how this will impact users and customers. Which part of change planning does this fall under?
Affected systems and impact. All right. So let's go through this one more time.
As well as the technical implementation, the change plan must account for end-user acceptance. It can be difficult for people to adapt to new processes and easy for them to magnify minor problems. During a major change process, end users may perform testing of the software or hardware to verify it functions properly and recommend changes, if necessary. This process is called user acceptance testing. What? Users may conduct this in a production environment.
So the difference is that this is testing, meaning that they're looking for feedback. This one is making sure that like the feedback's already been given, and we are factoring in making sure that there is acceptance by all the normies. Okay. So it was scope. Okay, interesting. So what is performance baseline?
The scope is the number of devices, users, or customers affected by the change. The scope can also include costs, timescales, and potentially subtasks or stakeholders. The scope should also include the factors that determine the success or failure of the change. The purpose of the change is to make the change and the benefits that the change will accrue.
Okay, so the scope is basically like I'm thinking like you're looking through a telescope or whatever, like everything that this change is going to see and is going to affect. Okay, that still doesn't tell me what performance baseline is. Let's see what these are.
In the IT infrastructure library, ITIL, configuration management model, service assets are things, processes, or people that contribute to delivering an IT service.
Okay.
In the IT infrastructure library, ITIL, configuration management model, performance baselines are metrics for expected performance to provide a basis for comparison for ongoing monitoring of a change.
Okay, cool. What was the actual question?
The IT manager generates a change request when a fault requires repair, identifies a new business need or process, or has room for improvement in an existing standard operating procedure, SOP, or system. What part of the change request includes the number of devices, users, or customers affected by the change?
There it is. The scope. What can the change see? Right there. Okay, let's keep going.
During the planning of a software upgrade or other major change, the planner must ensure that they schedule the change to minimize the effect on users or other customers. What is an important change management step to ensure this?
Date and time of the change. Next question.
When reviewing a change request, where would a manager look to find the number of devices, users, or customers affected by the change?
Scope.
It can be difficult for employees to adjust to a new or upgraded software, as well as the technical implementation. What must the change plan account for to mitigate this?
It can be difficult for employees to adjust to new. This is end user acceptance.
What process involves testing a change in a computing environment designed to replicate the production environment, but isolated from it?
Oh, but it's isolated from it? Sandbox. Last one.
It can be difficult for employees to adjust to a new or upgraded software, as well as the technical implementation. What must the change plan account for to mitigate this?
What must the change plan account? Oh, I think it's end user acceptance.
It can be difficult for employees to adjust to a new or upgraded software, as well as the technical implementation. What must the change plan account for to mitigate this?
All right, dope. Cool. Boom. I got about 6 hours left. So that's basically it. And there's a whole bunch of labs that we can do too. I'm not gonna lie. Oh, well, it's not gonna. It logged me out. Anyway, picture in picture. So that's it. I'm gonna go eat pizza now, and yeah, I know this is a boring stream. I just wanted to stream, but I also needed to study this so that way I can stay on track with all my stuff. So who knows? Maybe I'll kind of share like everything I'm doing and how I'm doing it and stuff like that, and yeah, people might actually like that. Who knows? All right. Where is the actual music? Let's turn this up. All right, Makala Checo.